All right, back now to the BBC, which has published its annual report. It comes as problems around the flagship programme Strictly Come Dancing continue. Well, the Director General, Tim Davie, addressed some of the controversy today, saying the corporation would never tolerate unacceptable behaviour. Well, I'm joined now by Colin Browne from Voice of the Listener and Viewer. Colin Browne, thanks very much for being with us. I do appreciate you making the time. But let's just deal first of all with the Strictly controversy. I mean, Tim Davie said that the show's going to come back for another season. Is it in trouble, do you think?
Obviously, it's gone through a very difficult period. The BBC has stressed the need to have proper care of its participants, whether they're the guests or indeed the professional dancers. And we would, I think, all expect that to be in place. But provided those difficulties can be ironed out, I think we certainly would hope that we will see Strictly again.
Yeah, and what does it do for the organisation like the BBC to have one of its sort of flagship programmes being under fire in this way, for really, you know, lifting the lid and seeing what it's really like to make?
It's obviously not great for the BBC. It's a challenge. BBC is constantly facing challenges, and I guess Strictly has seen a pretty safe plus bonus for the BBC over many years. But these issues do arise, and the most important thing is that they're dealt with quickly and professionally and totally to everybody's satisfaction. And it seems to me that Tim Davie has said today that that's what's going to happen. So provided that does happen, I think we can probably still look forward to Strictly.
Yeah, I guess the question will be whether or not the measures that are put in place will be enough, and that
exactly.
only time will tell with that. Okay, let's talk about the earners, the top earners that have come out today. I mean, I guess no major surprises in the list. That Gary Lineker is still at the top of it, but interesting to see that Hugh Edwards still makes the list and actually moves up in his salary.
Yeah, yes, I think that's probably just a quirk of timing, really. It is interesting. I mean, once again, it's another of the challenges that the BBC faces. I think we all know that elsewhere in the industry, people will probably be paid a great deal more. But the BBC is in the unique position of having to publish the details of what its top presenters get paid. I think, you know, if we talk to members and licence fee payers, obviously people get fed up when they see these vast sums of money that these presenters are paid. Against that, the BBC has to keep its talent. It's operating in a commercial market. It's in a difficult financial position in many ways. So it's got to get that balance right between keeping the talent that the public want to see and not paying them exorbitant sums of money.
Absolutely right. And in terms of sort of keeping the money coming in, you'll see that there's been a decline of 2% with last year for the licence fee. I mean, if that trend were to continue, that would be of great worry to the BBC, of course.
Yeah, I think it is a great worry. And if you look at what's actually happened over the last 10 years, calculations that we, the VLV, have done is that the BBC, in real terms, its public income, that's the income from the licence fee, has actually declined by nearly 40%, which is a vast change. And that's because its licence fee settlements have generally been below the rate of inflation over that period. Now, the BBC has had some success in making up some of that by expanding its commercial activities. A concern for us, of course, is that it doesn't get too commercial, and it needs to remember that the licence fee, the UK citizen, remains at the heart of the services that it should be providing. And that's another of those challenges. But it's the funding issue tied in, I think, with the charter renewal coming up, are the two big issues facing the BBC.
And how do you think they're going to sort of square those circles then, Colin? Because, of course, it feels a bit perennial now that we're talking about the funding models for the BBC and, you know, whether or not advertising can be sold around certain products. I think they're thinking about it around certain products that go, perhaps podcasts, etc. I mean, that is going to be something that keeps coming up, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it always has done. But I think that's a slippery slope, and I think the BBC has to be very careful before it goes down that route. I think what we need, I mean, certainly the VLV we believe that there has to be universal funding. And the BBC has to be universally available. Now, whether it's a licence fee or whether the licence fee can be made more progressive, that's a really important debate to be had, I think. What we believe is that there needs to be a proper debate, but before we have the debate about funding, we need to have a wide public debate about what we want the BBC to be and what we want the BBC to do. There's been a tendency of agreeing the charter for the BBC and then saying, oh, how will we fund it? And we think it really needs to be the other way around, and that it needs to be a much more public process, perhaps involving the Citizen Assembly when this comes up in a couple of years' time than has been the case in the past. And we welcome the fact that Tim Davie has said that there needs to be a wider public debate on these issues.
Yeah. Okay, Colin Browne, Chairman of VLV, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.